Sometimes with The Mandalorian, we get these sort of almost, I wouldn't say filler episodes, but episodes where, you know, not a lot of progress is made. But maybe we were just building to an episode like this. So let's talk about chapter 21, The Pirate. I have to mention once again every week, look, I'm going to be talking spoilers. There's no way to talk about this episode or this show without talking about what came before and what happened in this episode. So that's your warning. If you haven't seen it already and you want to, trust me, there's some interesting things that happen in this episode that you don't want spoiled if you haven't seen it yet. But for the rest of us, let's get on with it. The episode starts off with Grief Karga on Navarro, and yeah, Navarro is in trouble because Sigmund the Sea Monster is there. I mean, Gorian Shard is there to take over the planet and stuff. So yeah, he puts out I guess like an SOS to Carson Teva, who we've seen before, to get some help. Then it cuts to this planet where it's sort of a rebel X-wing pilot hangout kind of place, and it's kind of cool. There's some different kind of characters there. Alien and human. It's kind of interesting. And Carson gets the message and says, "Yeah, I'm basically gonna have to go to Coruscant to try to get some help." And who walks in but friggin' Zeb from Rebels, the animated show? What? I was very, very surprised, and to hear Steve Bloom's voice, it was pretty cool. I gotta say. I mean, it's cool to suspect something's coming, but to just have it dropped in on you like a surprise, not a, I've said it before, those things where they kind of elbow you and you go, hey, remember this thing that you like? No, it wasn't like that. It was part of the story. It was very quick. And if you didn't know who Zeb was, you just go, oh, that's a cool looking alien. Cool. And then you move on. But for those of us who knew, it was like, that's really awesome. So Teva goes to Coruscant and goes into the office of the ladies' man, or Tim Meadows. Look, he's I guess a requisitionist guy. I don't know what his actual title is, but he's basically, hey, Tavi's like, I need help. These people are in trouble, and yeah, I need some X-wing pilots. And Elia Kane walks in and is like, hey, you need anything from downstairs? I'm going. And then in the middle of it, she just kind of says, yeah, they're not in the Republic. So in the New Republic. So yeah. And then Tim Meadows is like, well, if they were part of the Republic, it was a strange scene, but it was also kind of like, okay, now I see where you're kind of tying things in. Kind of interesting. I mean, look, it's still kind of crappy that they wouldn't send anybody to help, but I get it. I get what they're trying to do here. So Teva goes to where the Mandalorians are hiding and is basically says, "Hey, I'm just telling you because I know you're friends of his. So yeah, that's what's going on." And yeah, Din tries to talk him all into it, and I gotta say, I was surprised because I thought it was like, dude, this Paz Vizsla guy, I don't like this guy. And then he basically turns the whole thing around, and he's like, we're Mandalorians, and this is what we do. This is what we're here for. This is the way, all that kind of stuff. It was kind of a cool little scene. And then right away we're on the way. We're on the way to tomorrow, and they're all of the planning and stuff is happening en route. And I gotta say, some of the things that Bo-Katan is saying, it got me pumped. It's like he's like, you can be heroes and all that. It's like it's kind of pumping me up. Now the battle is fun to watch. A lot of the air battle was really really well done. The ground battle though, it was just a little clumsy. I mean, the way that things play out, it's it's clumsily done. The blocking is just kind of, man, in the volume, they've got a limited amount of space. It's yeah, it's a little clumsy, but still probably better done than Book of Boba Fett was, or even Kenobi was in a lot of ways. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's a thing. We also get to see the armorer do a little kicking butt, and that was pretty cool too. But Vane gets away, and Sigmund is defeated, And yeah, the Mandalorians are accepted on Navarro, and he's like, yeah, all this room over here, that's all gonna be yours, and all the survivors are like, yay, and everything's cool. This conversation between Bo-Katan and the armorer, though, is pretty interesting, just because it's so you didn't really know where she was going. With I'm talking about the armorer, where it's like, take off your helmet, and she's like, but I thought this was your thing, keeping the helmet on. And she's like, no, take off your helmet. She's like, okay. She takes off her helmet and then walks her through all the people and basically says, Bo-Katan is the one to she's gonna go off and find some more Mandalorians, and this is the time we're gonna take back Mandalore. And it's like, interesting, interesting, especially with the dark saber still being, in Din's possession. What's going to happen there? It's kind of an interesting thing that's playing out. It seems like all of these things that I've been kind of complaining about over the weeks is starting to come together, and it's starting to make me excited to see where they're going to head next. Then we get this scene with Carson in his X-wing, coming up on this Imperial shuttle that's basically had its hull breached and all that sort of thing, and goes in and he's like, oh, and that's a really cool detail. The scope, on the R2 units is actually a probe, and it can detach and fly in. That, I mean, look, that's a really cool touch. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh, it was always that way, we just never saw it. That's a really, really cool little detail. I just like that. But anyway, yeah, it goes in and it sees, no survivors. Moff Gideon's not there like he's supposed to be, and there's Beskar on on the wall there. Like what happened? Is so the Mandalorian broke him out? What's going on? And then the episode ends. So basically, with this episode, there's look, a lot of, like I said, a lot of things come together, and I think that's really, really cool, and it makes me excited to see what's going to happen in the coming episodes. I mean, I'm assuming Moff Gideon will be back, Vane might be back, and whoever else they decide to bring in. Hopefully, they bring Zeb back. That's pretty sweet. I do have some problems though. I will say, it's just one of those things. I can't not see these things. I can't not see these issues now. The blocking is a problem, and it continues to be a problem. At the very beginning, when when Sigmund is shooting all the missiles down on Navarro there, right? And the people are running. They're running like oh, I only have a limited amount of room to run, instead of I'm running for my life because I might get blown up by a missile. It's distracting. It's just one of those things that's distracting. And even the gun battle, it just felt a little clunky to me. I mean, I gotta call it like I see it, right? I have mentioned this before, I think, but the music feels a little not epic. It's just, there's something very there about it. Like it's not blowing me away. But I mean, it does the job, but, and I mean, I even asked my wife about it. She's like, no, it didn't bother me at all. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's just a me thing, but the music bothers me. And I still feel like some of the acting and the editing seems a bit like it's stilted. It's like, it feels like there could be another pass at it to tighten some things up, just because it doesn't feel like it flows super great. And maybe it's camera movement. Maybe there's a lot of things that come into play here, but the talking scenes, some of them seem weird to me, and usually that's because there's an editing thing to me. Something that I realized while watching this episode, though, and it kind of got me thinking, maybe this is how I have to think about The Mandalorian, is I have to kind of think of it more of like a comic book, where it's just meant to be fun, and hey, I'm going to entertain you for 30 minutes or so. Maybe that's just how I have to think about it, instead of trying to apply this larger Star Wars baggage that comes along with it, where it's got to be this, it's got to be thought provoking, it's got to be something that I'm going to think about for years. It doesn't have to be that way. It can just be a fun story, and maybe I'll enjoy it more if I think of it that way. I hope that makes sense. Now I end with a bunch of, cons or whatever. But look, I had a lot of fun with this episode, so I'm kind of curious for those of you who've seen it. What did you think about it? Did you enjoy it like I did? Do you have the same sort of issues like I do, or are you like Rob? You're being way too picky. Just calm down and enjoy yourself. Let me know down below, and yeah, let's talk about it. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.